Take two. Welcome to Kingdom Speak, everyone. It's Friday. This week we're going to talk about our heritage. Welcome to Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKillop and Aaron Mayo. Welcome in, everyone.
Fear. Dominant.
Oh my goodness. What is happening?
It started my YouTube, which was Kingdom Speak, by the way.
The producer is trying something.
I just give up.
Okay.
I give up. It was a good try.
You know, I have to say, I don't know what's going on.
You guys are losing your mojo.
Like last
she's
week,
been a
we
rough
had to
go.
redo the intro. This week, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Anyways, welcome in, everyone. It's Friday. We're back. We talked about women's health last week.
That was so
Bit
good.
of an awkward conversation.
Do you know what impressed me about last week? Is it took approximately 42 or 43 minutes before the word hormone came up.
Yeah, that was intentional.
She was ready with it, though.
Yeah, she was like all around it. We're not even going to mention the word hormone. And then all of a sudden it came up. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that great discussion?
Good episode.
though?
Yes, it was great.
Great
It was
stuff.
great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it at all. It was just random. You know, somebody says, "Hey, what are you guys talking about this week?" Women's health. They're like, "Really?"
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not joking. Women's health. Anyways, welcome in. A guest at the table this week. Welcome.
on,
Thank you. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the formal introductions in a minute, but we're just breaking the ice here. It's about time that we get to a review or some comments.
I don't even know if we
The
dare
first-
try this.
Well,
this
yeah. Do you have
episode.
some tech lined up?
Yeah, let's go ahead and give this a shot. And I will go ahead and just say right here that we're getting a little low on reviews.
Oh, okay. The cupboards. It's time for a grocery run.
So if you're listening and you haven't left a review, imagine
moments.
if, let's just say, like, even if you were sitting at this table and hadn't left a review on Kingdom
Really?
Speak.
would be
I know I've left a review. Have you left a review? Have you left a review?
I left one of the
So-
first reviews, actually.
Okay, so I just encourage you to go leave us a 5-star review.
Yeah, don't leave a
We'll
4
see how we do. I'll base my review off of this interview.
It'll be like a self-assessment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, go leave us a review. So we're gonna hop over to YouTube.
All right,
we have
let's go to YouTube,
It's a very
folks.
very lengthy comment. It says, "So good, guys, so good."
All right, and who's that from?
That was from
Elisabeth Michel et Sean 8739.
Beautiful.
okay. Okay, I like this.
I had to clap, so I was laughing so hard. Let's say amen. To who?
Michel et Sean 8739.
It's French.
It's French. Yes. That was so good. Thank you. Do you have another one? Or is that
Man,
good?
I
I think we're good with that.
We have a
one.
top tier episode from Official Boulderlager.
Nice.
So-
Thank you for that. We'll say amen to you as well. Just to let you know, we do see these comments. Amen. That Fox episode was very, very popular. Everyone is loving it. We have still people coming in and commenting this week on the Bishop's episode, Bishop McKillop's episode.
Oh, yeah.
That was from a couple years ago now.
Wow.
It's cool to see how, I don't know if it's audience members going in, and we'll get into this stuff when we talk about content, but isn't it cool how this episode that you put out or a piece of content, and then here it comes back to the surface in 2 or 3 years. You're
Yeah.
like, man, what made this take off again, how the algorithms work or how people are drawn in. Anyways, thank you for listening wherever you are across the world. And today is going to be a great discussion. So we're going to get into content. We're going to get into content creation. Might do a little gear nerd talk. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I don't know how we got here, but maybe you want to tell the audience about that.
Yeah. So this has been somewhat of an ongoing conversation that I've had with Pastor Mayo for a couple of years, I guess. Whenever we would see each other at meetings and our paths would intersect, I was aware of the business that you operate. is it Our Heritage Films?
Yes,
or
Heritage Films.
Heritage Films. And so always was impressed with the little social media releases that you would give demoing either a project you were working on or
Yeah.
for promotional,
Yeah.
whatever. And so we had talked about the fact that I wanted you to come and do one of these for our family, my mom and dad specifically. And it just kind of morphed into a project that we're working on that we'll save that for later. But you are actually here in town. The
Just
great.
happened.
You just
through.
happened to drive through.
Just happened to drive through.
Yeah.
We're
Just
like, hey,
passing
bro.
through.
Yeah.
A day trip from Spokane.
Yeah.
Just a day trip.
Yeah. Well, his was a night trip, actually.
It was a night trip,
Yeah.
an all-night
He
trip.
red-eyed. Can you imagine?
That's painful, man.
Yeah. And so we're squeezing in a recording of our own because I think it's a great opportunity for our audience to hear a bit more about what you do. So thank you for being with us today.
Man, thank you.
And being in the studio. We really appreciate you being here
Thank you.
and looking forward to this conversation. So maybe you could just start by giving a bit of background about what Heritage Films is, what it consists of,
Yeah.
the scope, and maybe even how you got into this in the
Sure.
first place.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, and it's
this is
neat to
great.
see this all in real life. Seen you guys on YouTube and listened to you mostly via the podcast, and it's been a huge blessing.
Spotify?
No, mostly just through Apple Podcasts.
Thank you. Thank you.
And while we're on this topic, what do you always ask our guests just about podcasts in general? And
All right. So when we get to this part of the show where we're talking about podcasts, it may come up that just if it does, I'm just putting this bug in your ear. We may ask you what your favorite podcast is. So just think about it. Not asking you, I
Catalog
don't want to
it.
put you on the spot, but just
I
think.
could probably give it to you right now.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
listen, if you want to.
I would say The Pace of the Anointing.
Okay.
Oh, he went straight for
Yes,
it.
he
Yeah,
did.
The Pace
No
of the Anointing.
Kidding.
Thank you. Thank
Whoa.
you. That's amazing. I like
Okay.
it. I like it.
Okay.
That was a blessing to me. Also, I would say probably a close runner-up is The Salt, the one you did about salt.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
that was a blessing.
Wow.
Yes. No, it's great to be here. As far as how I got my start and how Heritage Films came about, I was working a dead-end job, raised by two incredible parents that had come out of some pretty difficult situations and had created a beautiful life for me. And I was just in a normal job, but just wasn't going anywhere, wasn't really progressing. And I started to feel kind of like a failure because my parents had come out of such horrific situations and have made this amazing life. And here I am, the son, and I just can't get unstuck.
Traction. Yeah.
And it was really a transformative moment for me, not just financially, but in my walk with God, because I carried this burden that I have to improve on what my parents did. And the fact I was living beneath that was really hard for me. And
It was kind of crushing for Elijah too, wasn't it? I'm no better than my fathers.
And so really it was born out of a prayer. I was working that dead end job, and I just had prayed that God, help me just pivot. I always had my eyes on ministry. I felt called to God from a very young age, but there's sometimes a big gap between the calling and the sending.
Sure, absolutely.
And so in that middle, that preparatory time, I just asked God for help, and God opened a door for me to get into filmmaking. And just to qualify that, because I know when I say that in an apostolic arena, people automatically think of
People know. There's no mixed opinions on this stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
man.
definitely not.
Yeah.
We've
But
never
we
heard any of that either.
No,
No, we've
never,
never heard any
never.
of that.
So
Seems how you brought it up.
Yes.
No. Yes, go
So-
ahead. Let him qualify. I want to hear this.
So filmmaking, like any occupation, has a wide hue of different aspects of it. And so I got my start in event filmmaking, small business filmmaking. and just really set my sights on that. And it took me a while to get it off the ground. It wasn't an overnight success. I worked essentially 2 jobs for almost 3 years while I was building up my business. And I finally got it off the ground. And that was about 12 years ago. And so in the midst of building my event business, my grandfather passed away. And it was really the passing of my grandfather that has been part of the inspiration of Heritage Films. So Heritage Films is a branch off of my my business that I've been building for 12 years in the event filmmaking space. And the idea really behind it was, once my grandfather had passed away, I recognized how much I didn't know, how much I didn't have from
Now that
my
he's
grandpa.
gone.
The moments
Now that
missed.
he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to conceptualize that while family is still there,
Oh, so true.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you can just call them, swing by the house, and once they're gone, there's this finality to death that was difficult, because my grandpa was a big part of my life, and just a really beautiful part of my life. And so Heritage Films was part of the fuel for Heritage Films is really just helping families preserve their heritage for the next generation. And it's our belief, it's my belief, that we shouldn't have to go to Ancestry.com to find out about family members that are still with us.
Yes. Right. Right.
We should be proactive and intentional about honoring their legacy and making sure that they get a voice in our life and in our kids' life. And what I've found through Heritage Films, and just to qualify what Heritage Films is, it's essentially a documentary of your loved one. We sit down with them. We have curated questions. We use over 10 years of filmmaking experience, and we extract, we pull out of your loved one all those beautiful stories, their accomplishments, their wins, their losses, their ups, their downs, and put that in a film that is watchable. This isn't something that you're just going to put on a shelf somewhere and never look at. We want to make something that you actually want to sit down and enjoy and pass on to the next generation. It's like an heirloom. And so, just to put it all together, we want to give a platform to Grandma and Grandpa. We want to give a platform
good.
to your mom and dad,
Yeah.
and show them we honor you, we appreciate you, and we want you to have a voice in our life and in our kids' life. And we hope you're doing that outside of the Heritage Film, but this is definitely one of many ways that you can honor your loved one. So that's really the start behind it, and kind of our feelings towards it.
That is fascinating. That is really what grabbed my attention. I think maybe the most recent would be different clips I've seen of what was posted of the late Pastor Tim Copeland. Wow. I mean, it was just a moment. And I know even in the short period of time that we've been doing Kingdom Speak, there have been guests that we've had on that have gone on to get their reward. And to know that we have a little snippet of who they were is just...
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's a bit like he being dead yet speaketh, you know.
Yeah. I think that when we are on purpose about preserving these stories, we put legs on them, and we allow those stories to go beyond the living room or the kitchen table and speak to us in ways and in places that they wouldn't have had reach before. And so video is just a wonderful mechanism for that. We're not trying to replace those meaningful conversations and times you should be having with your loved one. We just want to come alongside you and help you preserve those stories. And one thing we have learned over these last few years of doing heritage films is if you get an inclination to do it, do it. Don't wait.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't wait.
I agree.
We have found that often it takes a crisis for people to move. And a crisis isn't the greatest way to frame something like a heritage film. It's much better to get ahead of it and start talking to mom and dad or auntie and uncle and laying that foundation to get them to.
Yeah, the interview doesn't go well when they're on a ventilator, does it?
No.
No, I don't think so. Can I ask you a couple technical questions? Because we have a bunch of people in our audience who always reach out to us about, hey, I'm starting a podcast or we want to do video. What do you guys use? Blah, blah, blah. So I think the nerds will appreciate, if we may, just getting into a little tech for a couple minutes. So can you just describe your, without getting into your secret sauce, but the rough setup of how you capture this and your approach to grabbing the angles, and do you do live video switching or do you post edit? Just talk a little bit about the nerd side.
Well, and let me say this because I am a nerd. I think anybody in this space really kind of geeks out over all the tech. One thing I have learned over the last, it'll be 15 years of being in the filmmaking space, is you need to find your lane. What specifically do you want to do?
Yep.
And really define that, because if you don't, you're going to spend a lot of money on gear you don't need.
True.
And once you've defined, okay, I want to be a creative filmmaker, I want to be an event filmmaker, I want to be a podcaster. Once you've really distilled that down to what you want, then you can start buying gear that specifically helps you meet that need. And so for us, we want gear that travels light. We want gear that has a cinematic look without the cinematic size or workflow. Because as you get into more advanced gear, it's not just a better image or a better color space or a file that's less compressed. It changes your whole workflow.
Yep.
How you color, how you edit, whether you're proxying or not, what kind of drives you're editing on, what kind of computer you're on. So picking that lane is really important in the beginning. And so for us, being event filmmakers, primarily all of our gear is based around high mobility, high quality. We want a workflow that's really easy and fluid, so that when we get into post, we're not there for months and months and months.
Exactly.
We can move as quickly as possible. So for us, we shoot Sony.
Yep.
Sony has, with their newer cameras, a phenomenal color space. They shoot in 422 at a 10-bit color. You can shoot at 60 frames.
I feel like right about now
shoot
I
422.
should be listening for an interpretation of a prophecy. That's
We'll tell you when we're done.
Yes.
You just
I'm gonna
smiled.
just
You
have
want to
another
make a
drink of
coffee and
my-
come back?
Yeah.
So that was a good moment to say, yeah, we do the same thing.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, just nod and say, yeah, we do the same thing.
What about your?
I didn't want to be swearing in code or something.
What about your lens?
Yeah. So, once again, since our lane is in that event space, we definitely are going to run a few zoom type lenses that have a fixed aperture range. And this is something techie. If you're not real familiar with lenses, something to be aware of is as you invest in more expensive lenses, they're going to have a fixed aperture range, which means you can zoom in and the aperture is not going to change as the camera zooms. And what that allows is it allows you to keep the same depth of field and keep the same amount of light hitting your sensor. And that's really important when you're in run and gun shooting, right? Or you're in one-man band shooting, is you don't want to have to keep adjusting your lighting or adjusting your space between you and the background or the foreground every time you zoom. Okay, so a fixed aperture rate allows you to be more fluid in your shoot day. We also use a lot of prime lenses. So prime lenses cannot zoom, but they are the sharpest, generally the most beautiful lens when it comes to imagery. So you can get much lower apertures out of a prime lens, and then the sharpness of the image is just unbelievable. But there's no zoom, so you gotta know your distance. You gotta know how you're using it. You kind of gotta know that space that you're going to be using that
Cool.
particular.
That's great.
If you used to grab, go ahead.
So in that case, you have a range of those prime lenses based on how far you are from your target. Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no.
'cause that would be a deal for you traveling.
Right. So what you want is you want to cover the focal ranges that you feel like you live in the most. So event filmmaking, a lot of times you can't get close to your subject. So you're going to invest in a high-end zoom lens with a fixed focal range, with a fixed aperture range, so you can reach out and get to that individual. But in a setting like this, like these could all be primes because they're never moving. And the quality of the image, the sharpness, the bokeh is going to be unbelievable. Another thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going into the filmmaking space, is how you're going to stabilize the camera. And there's a million different tripods. There's a million different monopods, gimbals, slides. So you want to think about, how am I going to be using this? Is it going to be something I'm going to set up once? Am I going to be moving it a lot? Because you don't want to get a tripod like Kingdom Speak did that's so heavy you can't travel with it. True. Right?
Yeah, that's a cool story.
It's awesome.
So just pick your lane.
Do we have one of those?
Yeah, we have two of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we were packing up for peak.
It's actually the ones that he were commenting about that he thought were really cool. Okay. Those ones.
Yeah. It looks great in the studio, but we actually were on our way to peak. We were checking in our bags, which are all overweight, by the way. All of our travel kits are always overweight. But we were over the overweight.
Oh.
So, yeah, the tripods promptly went out of the bags back into the back of my vehicle in the airport parking lot. Randy and I looked at each other and like, well, we're going to have to get some tripods in Tulsa when we get there.
Man. It's tough.
But yeah, you're exactly right. It's a cool looking tripod, but we never really thought about.
But to your point, this was
travel.
not purchased for travel.
Right.
Yeah.
None of
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and just don't spend money unnecessarily. One of the things for me going into business is I wanted to stay in as little debt or no debt as possible.
Very good.
And so, because when you're in debt, it's harder to make good decisions because you are facing the cost of your investment. And if you've invested in a lot of things that you actually don't need, right, it's tough.
Yeah.
And so what I would highly recommend to somebody is, before you start spending a lot of money on gear, you just really figure out what you want to do.
That's good advice. That's good advice. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Before we move on from this, what's if you used to have one lens? One
50 1.4.
51.4 prime.
Yeah, prime. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I run a Zeiss 50 1.4 and it's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Nice.
Can I ask you one more question? Just on the producing of this, what are your tricks for coaching people out? And I know everybody has, you're trying to capture these people's stories. I'm sure there's a challenge. We see this on the show where we have somebody who, when we're drinking coffee with them, they're them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get them in here, get
Yes.
some lights on, get a camera, and they hear the show intro, and it's like, well,
Yes.
like that's a challenge.
Yes.
I think you can empathize with that.
Absolutely. You have to be the clown.
Yeah,
You have to be the one that is goofy enough that they feel comfortable being normal.
yeah,
And that really is a
Because
tactic.
you're leading them
Yes.
from being hypersensitive to
Yes.
normalcy.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So
Yeah.
you have to become you have to exude and be over the top. Because now, okay, I'm fine being me because you're crazy. You're wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
And we work with clients all the time that are not comfortable in front of the camera. But if I can make them feel like the attention's on me, even though the camera can't see me, right? But they can see me.
Yep.
And they can see me being silly or funny or goofy.
Yeah.
It brings the temperature down for them. So that'd be my
So
biggest
good.
my
That's
biggest
good.
tip.
We were just talking with the crew in Chico when we were there a few weeks ago, and they were saying how they were trying to film this announcement video for their service intro, and they had to take all of these takes. And I was like, yeah, you guys are exactly right. This is a peek into content creation. And for some reason, when you hit record, it's like your brain stops functioning
Yeah.
for 5 seconds.
Yep.
You know, it's like your brain starts buffering. You know,
Yes.
It's like, why is this happening to me? Like when we first did our first few shows, it's
Hi.
oh my goodness. Like
There
why am I
is
saying all
something
this?
interesting about feeling like you're being watched.
Yeah.
You know, there is
Yeah.
something to be said about that.
Yeah.
That is really compelling. That how you act changes when you know what you're doing has consequence. Right? It's being recorded.
Well, and it's almost like when I'm conversing with you and we're just going down the road in the car like we just did. I'm not running everything I'm saying through a filter
Yes.
right.
Yes.
But when I sit down and it's being recorded, it's almost like as I'm saying it, I'm making sure that I am articulating it properly. And until you break out of that,
Right.
right? It's almost like
Right.
as you're saying it, you're trying to hear it,
Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about that, about what that brings out of us and how we can even slightly alter who we really are to be more likable or whatever on the camera. And that's why you can't replace real authentic relationship. You can't replace having a real pastor that will sit kneecap to kneecap with you and look you in the eye and say to you what you may only understand from him. And being a pastor, in addition to being an entrepreneur, one of the things we contend with is the virtual preacher, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Sure, absolutely.
it's funny because it's a reverse of what I do for a living. So I kind of understand the camera side of filming somebody who's trying to say something, and then to have people that I love dearly and want to see grow and become all that God made for them, latching on to what they're seeing through a camera more than what they can see in real life. You know, what they can observe.
What a
in reality.
delicate balance, isn't it?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Wow. I'd like to go back briefly into the idea of capturing moments and not missing, not waiting too late. Prime example is in the case of even my dad. You know, we've had numerous wake-up calls, close calls with him where I can attest to the fact that, man, first and foremost, you don't want to live with unfinished business.
Right.
But in the case of in the context of what we're talking about, man, if there's those stories that you want to preserve, we have one video of my grandfather telling his testimony,
That's awesome.
and it's invaluable, right? It's just in his words,
Yes.
and once he got into the flow of the conversation, you guys have seen it. It's amazing. I was reading a few weeks ago 1 Samuel chapter 10, and I want to just throw this out as a little. I think there's a little biblical slant even on this. Samuel took a vial of oil and pours it on Saul's head, and we find out in that moment that Saul has been looking for his father's asses. They're lost, and he sends them. So when you go back and you go, well, where did this Saul guy come from? You find that, and this is exactly how he's introduced. There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a son whose name was Saul. Before he ever introduces what Kish produced, he introduces the fact that he's the son of, the son of, the son of, the son of.
Right.
Before he talks about what he produces, he talks about what he was the product of.
Right.
It's heritage before its progeny. It's this is where he's from.
Right.
Before it's this is what he's doing. And I think in a generation that we're a part of right now, we're way too short-sighted, man. And it's all about what is this guy producing? What is this? But we, if we're not careful, we'll alienate. He's the son of the son of the son of the son, and there is a heritage. Paul would look at a Timothy and say, "Man, I know what's in you, because I've seen it in your mother and I've seen it in her grandmother." And I'm seeing the heritage of this. So
Yes.
I think we only do justice to make sure, in whatever avenue.
Yes. And
It's
that's what
not
I was
just
going to
a-
say.
It's not just a film.
Yes. I think that we believe in this idea of preserving heritage so much. We don't care how you do it. Just do it. Just pull out the recorder on your phone. Whatever you got to do to preserve that story, do it.
Yes.
What makes something like what we produce different than what you can do with your phone is watchability. That's the key. Watchability is, do you actually want to sit down and consume this content? However you want to capture it, just capture it. That's your pastor, that's your uncle, that's your grandfather, that's your father. Get that content, because take it from somebody who's lost people close to them. Once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
So get the content, but when you bring somebody in, whether that's us or someone who's in this field, what you're really hiring is the watchability factor, where it's
That's
put
very good.
together in a way
Very good.
that you and your family actually want to sit down, see the photos, hear the stories. It's done in a way that is watchable.
Yes.
That's enjoy it. You can enjoy it as a
Yes.
family, and it's not sporadic. There's not a dog barking in the back. There's not a baby crying. There's an enjoyment factor to it, and I think that films like this or products like this, they've become more popular. Being in this space, we see people who write books of your family stories. They'll take the story and they'll make a book, or make a photo album or whatever. Preserving heritage has become important as this last generation gets older and older. So,
I know some of our premium episodes. We were having this conversation before we sat down to record. One of our premier episodes is Sister Hodges talking about her late husband, Verbal Bean, and the book that she had written, and just getting that glimpse into a man's life that was tragically removed from us. Thank God someone convinced her to write that down.
yes. Stories are such a powerful part of our life experience.
Yeah.
How we articulate concepts is through story. We use story to make real what can be hard to understand. And when you can have that story by your own gramfather or your own mom or your own uncle,
Definitely.
that in their voice and their cadence, how they say it is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we've really enjoyed doing this. It's a lot of fun.
So let me ask you this, and maybe you won't be able to get too in depth with this, but what's some of your most treasured moments in capturing the stories of families. You know, is there any moments that just stick out?
Yeah.
that are shareable that won't
I
violate?
would say that one of the things that has stood out to me as we do these is the family as they participate in this capturing of their, let's say, parents' heritage. They're hearing things maybe for the first time as they hear their own mom or own dad recount a story. They're seeing dots connected that had never been connected for them.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
they're sitting in the room crying because they're seeing it or they're hearing something or a piece is coming together. And they're like, I never even knew that.
Yeah.
I never even knew that about them. And that's amazing. I mean, that's one of the things that stuck out to me is the process of making these films has brought out some of these moments with the family that has been really neat. And then definitely once we deliver these films and the loved one does pass on, how much that family will treasure having a finished film that's really beautiful.
We're close with the Copeland family. They're just salt of the earth. I can't imagine what that film is worth to them, seeing the bishop be able to tell the story about the church and those moments that you captured between them and his boys, and just special moments, man.
Yes.
I know is a treasure
Absolutely.
to them. It has to be.
That's a beautiful family, and that was an honor to be able to do that.
Yeah.
For their family.
Yeah.
And man, I'll just also tell somebody that there is such maybe your family doesn't have a ministerial background. Maybe they have never preached or
Sure. Sure.
You have such a rich heritage. The fact that you're here, the fact that you got here, and the stories that it took to get you to where you are.
For sure.
I'm telling you, it's really amazing. When you're sitting down with people, and I remember one story a man told. He was a fireman, and had lost track of his hose, because that's part of how they navigate when they're in the blackness of the fire. And he had started to run out of air, and I'm not an expert in this, but what I remember him saying is he had started running out of air and had gotten to the place where he was out of oxygen. He had lost where he was. He's getting ready to pull his mask off. And if you know about being in a smoky house, it's just a couple breaths and you're dead.
Yeah.
And he goes to pull his mask off, and another firefighter takes his mask and shoves it on his face and essentially saves his life. The other firefighter was out of danger and shoved his mask on the mask of this man's face as he pulls his off and saves his life. Wow. And that one moment can be the difference on whether or not you're here.
Yes, absolutely.
And you could see that picture in a photo album. And, Grandpa's got his arm around the guy next to him. His face is all dirty. And, he's holding the hose, and never know the context of that image. Right. Never know that that's the man that's responsible for you being alive.
Family.
For your whole family was that one guy who put the mask in Grandpa's face and saved his life.
Right.
And here you are. And so what this does is it brings context to all of the memories and images you may already have. So, and listen, once again, if whether you have us do it or whatever it is, just be intentional about preserving your family story. Be intentional about capturing those stories, because once they're gone, they're gone.
Wow. That is so true. If we can shift gears just for a second before we wrap up the discussion. How do you balance all of this out with being a home missionary pastor and juggling, planting a church? Do you see these as competing roles? Being a pastor and doing this, or is this something that is working in tandem with what you're being called to do?
That's a great question. I think I don't think there's one answer to that question. I can just tell you what it's been for me. My wife and I planted 8 years ago a church in South Spokane, and what my business has allowed for me and my wife and I's ministry is flexibility, has allowed us to finance our ministry and not have to be as stressed or as worried or as tied up in knots as I know any husband who wants to provide for their family would be as you're following the call of God. But also part of the call of God is providing for your family. I would argue that my first responsibility is to my wife and to my children.
Yes.
And I have a responsibility to provide for them. Now, that doesn't mean I have to provide the Taj Mahal and live outside of our means, but I do have a responsibility to the stability of my family.
Sure.
And I just say that because when you go to start a ministry, you're passionate, you're excited, you want to change the world, but you also have to be that constant daily provider for your family. And my business has allowed me to do that. And so as a church, we have no debt. We're very thankful for that. As a church, we've been able to do some really wonderful things, not just because I have a business, but because people bought into the vision and have helped us get to where we are right now as a church. But I would encourage anybody who's planning a church, get some skills, get some tools, get a Swiss Army knife of things you can do, so that you're not afraid to preach against sin because you might lose a tithe payer. You're not afraid to take a stand on separation because you might lose the one family you have. And for all those that have never pastored a church, listen, or started a church, this may not mean a lot to you, but listen, when you've got one person in your church that you've prayed over, that you've fought over, that you've worked on, and now you feel to teach or to preach on something, and your ability to provide for your family is also tied up in that, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's difficult. And once again, I'm not saying my way is the only way or this answer is the only answer, but for me, it's allowed me to stay true to my convictions, to stay strong, provide for my family, and do the work God has called me to do. But I will add to that. Our church is now at the 8th year.
That's awesome.
And we have gotten to a place, and my church knows this, that I've had to start taking some very meaningful steps in downsizing my business so that I can have a greater impact in our church.
Sure.
And so there's no escaping the sacrifice that's required to do God's work. This isn't an out. Well, I'm going to keep working so I don't feel the pinch of sacrifice.
Sure.
That's not at all what I'm trying to sell here. But if you're going to church plant and you're going to do that without outside resources, and if you've got outside resources, great. Praise God. We did it. You're going to have a way to provide for your family. And I'm very thankful that I started my business long before I started my ministry so that I could have some momentum financially going into my ministry. And now as I draw back on my business, our church has grown, and God has blessed our church and has blessed our people as they're a blessing. And it's really a beautiful thing. It's really an amazing thing.
The obvious answer to the conversation of, bivocational pastors, or in the case of what you're talking about, church planters, which is another level again. We quickly run to of Paul being a tent maker,
Right.
but I think the one that takes the cake is, you remember me asking Bishop Tipton that?
I was just going to
question?
say we get into this with Bishop Tipton. We
Yeah,
did.
so I
We
asked
haven't heard
Bishop
it, yeah.
Tipton that, and he said, in the classic way that only he can, I think he answered the question with, fewer than 10 words. It was like something along the lines, well, Jesus was a carpenter.
Right. Right.
And then he just stopped.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
If he could be, if our Savior could be bivocational, I guess we could preach his gospel.
Right. I think
Not that that's the to try to portray the balance of this. Not that that's the desired end, but from what you're saying, using it as a catalyst to be able to do ministry.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty hard to be critical of that, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be doing ministry.
Right. Right. And I think sometimes aiming at balance can be really defeating, because when you feel a call of God on you, you want to go all in. And
Yes.
you have these competing emotions.
Yes.
One is I have to put food on the table. And the other is I have this burden for people and I love people. And so how do you balance a hungry family and a call of God? And I think sometimes framing like that is difficult, because when you're a church planter, you don't have the luxury of getting that perfectly right. And here's what I would tell you. You have to first be a husband to that wife and a father to those children.
Absolutely.
And be a provider.
Absolutely.
If you lose your family, you lose everything.
Yep.
Okay? You have to find a way to be a godly provider and fulfill the call of God on your life. And entrepreneurship has been a beautiful way for me to accomplish that. It hasn't always been perfect. It hasn't always been what I've wanted it to be. But I think in that friction, I think in that fight of trying to do your best in whatever you're doing it with all your might, there's a beauty in that. There's like, you're not always going to get it right. And that's okay.
Sure.
Do your best.
Sure.
Get out there, church planner, and do your best. Work hard, pray, build your business, but your aim is ultimately the church. Your aim is not to be a millionaire. And this is something that I had to redefine for me. And that was, I wanted to build a business that could continue to provide for me and my family while I built the church. And I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but I quickly found out that no man can serve two masters. It's one thing to work a job so that it can provide for the ministry. It's another thing to give all of your energy to try to build that business to a level that it can financially sustain you beyond your church, that I personally wasn't capable of that. I had to say, listen, if the business has to die for me to be successful in my church, then whatever it takes.
Well, right.
Then whatever it
Right.
takes.
And that's probably a moving target that you have to reevaluate over and over and over again, because business has a way of clawing away
Yes. Yes.
at your time. And
Yes.
if you are a success-driven individual,
Yes.
and I want to say this, I've had conversations with men that are going to be listening to this that feel like God led them to abandon their job
Sure.
and walk away from business. We've had missionaries that have used that as an example. I'm talking like six digit and up figure income,
Sure.
where they just felt like God was challenging them to cut all ties and
Sure.
completely trust. That's a different discussion.
Yes.
If God's, that's kind of like I've had that conversation about, when you're building a church, literally like expansion, not church planting, but like construction phase. Do I do it debt free, or do I borrow? Do I leverage funds? And so I remember talking to a couple of men of God who I highly respect, and both of them had built their buildings debt free.
Wow.
But their response to me was, you know what, if God doesn't tell you to, then just borrow the money and get it done. Don't drag it out, because there's a cost to doing it that way as well.
Yes, there is.
But it's not a cost if God told you to.
Right.
So we're not advocating ignoring that divine
Exactly.
hunch and the prodding of the Spirit to go, I want you to dive in whole hog into this. But generally speaking, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, is you feel like your business has been something that has aided you
Yes.
in ministry.
And I think that as a church planner, I think these types of conversations on what the baseline is really helpful, because we've all heard these incredible, fantastical stories of how great men of old built their churches.
Sure.
But what you quickly find out is that's the exception and not the rule. Okay. I remember hearing about this as it pertains to finding a spouse. You know, somebody, God speaks to them, they meet their spouse, and 1 week later, they're married. And if you go into relationships like that, it's very defeating, because most relationships, you don't meet them and marry them a week later. That's the exception and not the rule. And what church,
did you hear that? All the young people,
All the single people.
Did
That's
you
right.
hear that?
Turn up the
Okay.
volume on your AirPods and listen to this man.
Yeah.
you need a baseline. You need to know, what does good look like in my situation? And we know you need to be a provider for your family. And when you're church planting, that's a burden and a desire God has put on you. And I believe God will walk with you in that. And when God speaks to you about making that turn, then make that turn. Then make that adjustment. But I think for all my church planting friends out there, listen, if you have a desire to church plant, if you have a desire to go out and do ministry, do yourself a favor and just get a couple skills. Get a couple skills under your belt.
Yeah.
So that if times get hard, you don't have to go get a loan. You don't have to leverage your car. You don't have to turn in that $100,000 RV you shouldn't have bought, right? You have a couple lines in the water that you can pull up a couple fish and be able to provide. Because one of my greatest resources in church building has been my wife and has been my family. They have been an incredible strength to me. I do not want to destabilize that. I do not want to destabilize my wife.
So good. Yeah.
I want her to feel, I remember a mentor of mine telling me this. He said, when your home is secure, you can put on your armor and go and fight every day. When you lose your home, when you come home to a place of fear and chaos and we don't know what's going to happen next, listen, this is not undermining faith. Faith is an element of this, but the baseline is be a provider. And so for me, my business has provided for me and my family, but we are starting to see, hey, I can't do both at the capacity I want to do it.
Right.
So one of you has to bow,
And at that moment-
it's the business has to bow.
Right.
And if that means I make less money, then I make less money.
Right.
God is going to provide through other mechanisms. And you know what I'm finding? As I'm shortening up my business, God has continued to provide.
Sure he
God has
has.
continued to open doors. It is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one thing has been a reoccurring voice in my life from God has been, Aaron, I've done my part. You do yours.
Yeah.
God has always done his part in my life.
Yeah.
God has always been faithful in my life. And one reoccurring thing that God has spoken to me is, Aaron, I've done my part. You go do your part. And that's my job, is to go do my part, to play my role.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. That's the and man, we could talk about that. Miracles. When you look at the amount of miracles throughout the Word of God that really boil down to, I'm doing this, but I want you to do this. And if we both do this, we'll call it a miracle when it's done. But if you don't go wash in the pool,
Right.
I mean, I done the spitting and the mud ball making and all that, but you still got a piece to do.
Right.
Now, when it's done, it's still going to be a miracle.
Right. And God's going to get the glory.
But but it's you and I working together to get this thing done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. So church, the entrepreneurship part has just been a blessing to me, and very thankful for that part.
Wow. And a very rewarding thing as well.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
can only imagine.
Yes.
So where can they go find out more about?
Yeah. So our website is ourheritagefilms.com. You can jump on there and take a look at what we do. We love helping churches honor their pastor. That's something really fun.
Yeah.
Love helping families capture their story. And listen, if I can't help you because we're busy, I'll love to point you somewhere or at least get you on the right path. But it's been an honor, and I'm thankful to be here.
Wow. Man, has this been awesome?
Thank you for coming in today.
This has been so great. Well, it's been an honor to have you on Kingdom Speak. We're excited about what we're working on together this week.